Welcome to the Awakening Podcast, the place where we challenge the conventional thinking and open our minds to new possibilities. I'm your host, Roy Coughlan, aka the Podfather, and today we're diving into a topic that affects almost everyone on the planet: cell phones. We use them for everything: work, communications, entertainment, even comfort. But what if the very device we hold so close to our heads and our hearts is quietly harming us? My guest today, Norbert Heuser, believes the electromagnetic radiation, or EMR, from cell phones is not only dangerous, but one of the leading causes of our modern health crisis, including the staggering rise in cancer rates. 17 years ago, Norbert became severely ill due to cell phone exposure. Unable to find protection, he turned to science and developed a proprietary quantum physics-based technology to neutralize EMR's harmful effects. Today, we'll explore the truth about EMR, the addiction to our devices, and what we can do to protect ourselves and our families in an increasingly wireless world. Please welcome back to the show, Norbert. And just as an additional thing, on episode 401, we discussed about caffeine. And since then, I mentioned on the show that I was going to read the book. I read the book, and I would highly encourage people to get it and read it. Coffee Addiction and Caffeineism, very good book. So I look forward to your new books because I know you're working on a few.
I am working on two more books, yes, at the moment. I have more in my mind, but right now I'm working on two books, yes. It's a lot of work, a lot of research. Over the years, I collected information. Thank you very much for the compliment for the book. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I suppose let's what let's kind of, I suppose, delve into what happened 17 years ago.
Well, I became very sick, and I thought I had a stroke. My face was kind of deformed in the morning. I wake up in front of the mirror. When I was 10 years old, my father had a stroke, and I remember his face. It was squished, and one eyelid was down, and he couldn't really move his mouth. So I remembered it vividly. And so one morning I step in front of the mirror and I see the same effect like I saw with my father. And it deeply shocked me because I had a stroke, apparently. My wife is a nurse. She stepped up when I said, shouted out for her, and she was shocked. So I quickly ran to the next available doctor in this field. And he made some quick testings and questions, and he said, no, you didn't have a stroke. And we have here in our skull a small little hole through which runs a nerve, okay? And it's called Bell's palsy. And this nerve, due to the cell phone, among others, which we discussed today, creates heat. And because of that heat, that nerve expanded, but the hole is extremely small. So the nerve, so to speak, blocked in that small little hole. And this created all these effects like a stroke. I immediately changed my habit with the cell phones usage. And within a few days, it calmed down and it went away. At the same time, my firstborn grandson was very sick. He had one of the strongest eczema I have ever seen in my lifetime. And I nailed down that main reason was because of cell phone. My eldest daughter, who did great jobs with my grandsons, both of my grandsons were born in the jacuzzi bathtub at home, not in a hospital. And both were never in a lifetime in a hospital. And both, they're now 15 and 17, never had any vaccination whatsoever, including the jab. Nobody of us. So, but he was very sick. So when I nailed it down that he as well was affected by the cell phone, I looked around to find a solution. I looked around to find a solution, and I could find nothing. And I'm not sure you're aware of kinesiology, muscle testing. I'm doing muscle testing for the past 45 years. So I muscle test the products which were available, which are hardly anything. We're talking about 18, 17 years ago. The awareness was not there, but at all like today. So there was nothing. So I said, this is unacceptable. it's obvious that this is going to screw up our health. And at this point, there was only we just changed from 3G to 4G. Um, it was apparent that the world would be flooded with cell phone already at this time. So I sat down to, so to speak, in my German headquarters in Germany. My headquarters is still in Germany. I live in America, but my headquarters is still in Germany. I did some research. Well, some research is it's undervalued. A lot of research. I had two, three great colleagues of mine. We sat down and we put our brains together, and I developed my first product, which was for cell phones. Um, Not thinking that I would manufacture any product. I was just trying to find a solution for myself and the family. So I came up with the first product for myself, and then I had people left and right asking. I made my first series of products, and before I woke up next morning, I had a small production going on. And mind you, at this time, I had to sell the product for $500, which was the only way for me to produce it. And it was sold out in a few weeks. And I said, Jesus. And I knew the $500 was not doable. I had to bring the price down. So that was the start of my company. I didn't imagine I would have a production. From there, it went to Wi-Fi because once I discovered the solution, which we will discuss today, of course, I applied it to Wi-Fi, not only the cell phone. And then I discovered problems with water. And then I discovered that most people drink bad water. So I worked on water and so on and so forth, on and so forth. And all what I'm doing is based on quantum physics. So that was the start of the company.
Excellent. So I suppose for those, I mean, you mentioned putting to your head. I've heard of, lots of even tendinitis and things like that. A lot of things that could be caused from that as well. With all your research, I mean, you mentioned the child with eczema. I presume you've come across more things because the reason I'm asking is some people mightn't even associate it with the phones and just go to the doctor and get the magic pill, which in turn doesn't really cure it. It just gets rid of the rash or something like that.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And mind you that what I'm telling you today, I dare to say that 99% of the doctors have no idea what I'm saying today. Because no doctor in the medical school has ever been educated in electromagnetic radiation, cell phones, Wi-Fi. They've never been educated in water or nutritional supplements. There are a lot of topics no medical doctor has ever been educated. And it's crazy. And the point is, if I slap you in the face and it hurts you, you know why it hurts you, right? Because, I hit you, right? But with things like electromagnetic radiation, you can have anything depending on where your weakest link is in your body and how you use it. Um, you can have headaches. You develop cancer, which we'll talk about intensively. Um, so there is not one reaction, not one illness only because of cell phones. There are a lot of them, and we discover them today.
And what I've there's like a warning now on phones, and I think it tells you like 5 millimeters or something like that.
Oh yeah,
Or but the reality is
it's
most
all yeah
people, like a lot of women, they have them in their back pocket or unfortunately in the
in
breast area and they get breast cancer. And then a lot of people, men, they have it in their pocket, they get testicular cancer. But the
yeah
fact that it's actually next year is why it's really dangerous as well.
yeah.
Because even if they're turned off, I know that I watched the show and the tracking, there was more tracking done on the phone that was turned off. So sometimes people think they'll turn it off, and I don't even think that's even
No.
yeah.
So cell phones, health dangerous addiction. You have two components here. You have an addiction effect, and you have a health effect, a direct health effect. So it's both. And this makes it extremely dangerous for us. But we should first look into something which is very fundamental. Um, we talk about now all about 5G today, right? I got to clarify this for people. What the hell does that mean, 5G? Um, 5G means the fifth generation of Wi-Fi technology. Around 1981, as you can see, we had 1G, right? It was only cell phones, nothing else. 10 years later, we had 2G. You had cell phone and you could start to text message. Then 10 years later, again, 3G, cell phone, text message, and online. Another 10 years later, 4G, everything as above, but with a higher speed and more information. And now in 2020, we had 5G coming up, which is 1,000 times more traffic than 4G, at 10 to 100 times faster than 4G. So these were the different generations. So 5G means simply the fifth generation of Wi-Fi technology. It doesn't mean anything else. Now people think it's new. The interesting, funny fact is that in 2020, when we have the shutdown for COVID, exactly in that time period, by accident, thousands and thousands of towers were set up to handle 5G. You needed extra towers for 5G, an extra way of transmitting the signals. So while we were locked in like sheep, thousands of workers out there put up these towers, not only here in America, but worldwide, basically everywhere.
Yeah, I remember it.
And the point is, which is maybe a surprising factor for many people, 5G is not new. 5G has been developed in the 1960s by the Army and has been used as a weapon to control and kill people. Now, you don't need to trust me or rely on me. I'm not up for marketing stunts. I'm too old for that. If you go on the internet, you'll find under YouTube a British gentleman called Barry Trower. Barry Trower was a former Secret Service Army engineer. And I don't know what title he had, but he's retired now.
I think he was in the Navy. I actually spoke to him. I've rang him. I wanted to get him on the show, and he wouldn't do it because he wouldn't use Wi-Fi. He said if I came to him, he'd do the show, and I wasn't traveling to the U. Yeah, he's a very interesting guy.
And I communicated with him. He's a typical old-fashioned British, beautiful gentleman. Yeah. And I had to communicate him with letters. He would send me handwritten letters. Okay. So, because he was so much into this that he knew exactly what was going on. So I encourage you, go on YouTube, find Barry Trower, and listen to his videos. There are a few people out there, which I will name later in the show, which are just incredible sources of information. I'm gathering information. I'll put it together in combination with the technology I developed. But you don't need to trust me. Trust Barry Trower and another gentleman I mentioned later, and he will explain you everything. So 5G was developed in the 1960s, and people don't know that. It's very simple. It's a principle. All the technologies are basically developed either by a major company, but in most cases by the Army. Why by the Army? Because they had all the funds in the world, endless money to develop whatever they wanted to develop. Whether it's GPS or whether it's cell phone, Wi-Fi technology, and microwave oven and whatever. Thousands of products they developed, and then later on they commercialized them, sold them in the stores, in the supermarkets, right? So to speak. But it was developed for the Army. Now, the big thing was the changes now we are working with now is something which is important to understand at the beginning here. I don't get too technical. We go in the practical world very soon. So you have here the coverage. 3G, 4G, the antenna technology was different, as you see in the top image. You see how it spreads in the white dispersion over a lot of places. Now, the image below, the coverage of 5G is totally different because the 5G frequencies are very shortwave frequencies and they can easily be blocked. Because they can easily be blocked, they're such a high frequency that they have to have every 100 meters, 300 feet, some form of transmitter. Of course, you know all these big towers. We've seen all these big towers, of course. We've all seen the big towers. But it's not about the big towers, which is easy to detect, but it is about the transmitters, the smaller size, um, which you want to, like these towers, everybody knows, everybody sees them. But then again, you don't pay attention. But more dangerous are then, if you can say so, more dangerous are the small transmitters, because these transmitters are small. You don't realize them, but they have to be every 100 meters to get the coverage going. And they are not only small, but they're hidden in most of the times. So nowadays they put them into um, traffic lights, traffic signs, street lamps. They're everywhere, and you don't realize it because they're very small, but they need them. I'm saying this because I want to make people understand, and some people I talk to and I speak to, and they follow me on my different sides, and they ask me questions. Um, that makes them so dangerous. You can't escape. I want you to understand in today's shows, you can't escape. So a lot of people send me emails every day. Where can I move? Where can I live to be not in danger? And I have a very simple answer. Nowhere. There is no Robinson Crusoe Island anymore to escape. It's too late. It's everywhere. So it does not really matter. Sounds funny, whether you have a cell phone or not, whether you yourself have a Wi-Fi or not, because the penetration is everywhere.
And
If you
just
don't have,
just on that, because you mentioned the bigger ones, because I pay attention to this and I've been studying this for a long time, they were in churches at the top of the church, all these towers, the bigger ones. They're in big shopping malls, hidden inside the signs. I know that in some countries they have a cactus over it and different things to hide the big ones. With regard to the lamps, because I see a guy that exposed it, they got the actual thing and showed the dangers of it because all the dangers are at high level. You don't see it, but the people that are installing it. But what I noticed in where I'm living in Łódź in Poland, and they have the Dell factory because it moved from Ireland to move to here, and it's Foxconn actually owned it now, even though it's still kind of shown as Dell. That was a new road that was there, and they had all the lights, and they were taking down all the lights, putting up these other lights, and I was like, "There's nothing wrong with this. What's going on?" And I could see because I've seen the picture of the lights. But what I noticed is I pay attention to a lot of things. I could see all the bushes and everything were dying. Did they just come away and take it away? So they put these in every 100 meters, as you say, the lights, and they put them in a load of places in much, and a
yeah,
load of cameras and a load. Like I see it everywhere. It multiplied by probably 100 in the space of a couple of years, and it is so detrimental to our health. And unfortunately, and most people don't even see it. They just walk past it, and that's how they've done it. They've orchestrated that people don't pay attention to it.
sure, sure. So I'm only going to give you some technical sides, but we'll look in the practical world, of course, how to do that. Um, the first basic information is then our body is based on electricity. Without electricity, our heart wouldn't work. Our brain wouldn't function. A lot of organs, they are based on electricity. We have a natural field in us. So when you have a cell phone, you must have electromagnetic radiation. No, regardless how dangerous it is, if you have a car, you need gas to run the car. We know that. If you have a cell phone, you need electromagnetic radiation. Otherwise, you cannot run it. It doesn't work. Wi-Fi. It needs electromagnetic radiation. Now, as you measure the speed of a car in miles or kilometers, or you weigh it in pounds or kilos, you measure electromagnetic radiation in what is called microwatt per square meter. How many microwatt per square meter do you measure? Our body has a natural field of 80 microwatts per square meter. That's the international standard. 80 microwatt per square meter. If you keep that number in mind, we come across this number 1-2 times during the show. Now, more than 100, 120 is health dangerous. If you make a cell phone call, you have easy 1,000 to 2,000. According to a German building biologist, Mr. Mayes, who unfortunately died, I was in contact with, more than 1,000 he considers in the range of cancer. So, but we should only have 80. Now, what does that mean? It means our natural field we have in our body, in which we need, we're born and raised with this on this planet. This natural field gets sabotaged by the electromagnetic radiation of cell phones, Wi-Fi as well, and others, but we talk about cell phones today. Now, would you put your head in a microwave oven and press start?
Absolutely not.
And even people have no idea about technology, because everything we talk about today, and you and I, we have 2 more shows in mind. The next show talking about Wi-Fi, electromagnetic radiation, and then the 3rd show, which is very unusual on top of all, about geopathic radiation. So once you listen to these 3 shows we have here planned, you understand, you have a conceptual understanding. I want people to have a conceptual understanding. It's not only the cell phone, but we talk about today about the cell phone. Now, some people think when they hear me talking about cell phones and the dangers and so on and so forth, these people think that I hate cell phones. Nothing is further from the truth. When I was younger than today, I bought this, at this time, the first kind of cell phone. We didn't call it cell phone, it was a mobile phone. It was a big box. You see that image there of the big box?
Yeah.
And you can hook it up in the car and carry it with you on a shoulder strap. Now, keep in mind, when I bought this phone, we're talking here about, I'd say 1990. Was it 1990? Yeah, most likely. 1990, 35 years ago. That was $10,000. $10,000. And I loved it. Because I started my company, I traveled throughout Europe and especially Germany, and I saw how great I could accomplish things by having a phone available all the time, driving in the car for hours and so on and so forth. My office could call me. So I'm not against technology. What I'm up against is that people are not informed, and technology is something wonderful if you use it to improve your life all around. But if you pay a price, and the price is health for many of these products, which are sexy, fluffy, rock and roll, we love it, entertaining, then something is wrong. In my opinion, every person who releases a product has to make sure there are no harmful effects. And if there are, then you have to inform people and leave them the choice. You still want to buy it? These are the negative sides. I do a show about tattoos. Hardly anybody knows that tattoos cause cancer. So if you want to have a tattoo and you're aware of it, what it does to your health, which I teach in that show, if you're interested in one day, then it's your decision. But you were informed. So that's all I'm saying. So with the cell phone now, let's look into this very reasonable. This world wouldn't work anymore without Wi-Fi, and this society wouldn't function anymore without Wi-Fi and without cell phones. So besides the practical side of cell phones, there is the side of addiction. We know, meanwhile, that cell phone is classified in a lot of studies as an addictive product. So it's not only about making a phone call like the first cell phones I had and this mobile phone I just showed you. That was not a point of being entertained. It was just the practical side of the cell phone. And this is over. Cell phone is making phone calls, no question, but in many cases, it's about entertainment, about sex and rock and roll, about fun, about spending your time, or should I say, wasting your time. The big problem is with a cell phone that no cell phone company had ever to prove that they are harmless. And we'll talk about this very clear now. People are taken for idiots. A funny fact is that no insurance company will insure you against Wi-Fi or cell phones. We all heard about this famous English-British insurance company, Lloyd's. Lloyd's, you can insure everything. If you're a piano player, you can insure your fingers that if you break them or get cut off, that Lloyd's will insure you for a compensation, right? So you can insure everything, but Lloyd's, you cannot insure yourself against Wi-Fi or electromagnetic radiation, cell phones, and so on. And furthermore, Bill Clinton, United States, had released a law several years ago that no cell phone company and no provider of Wi-Fi can be taken to court for compensation.
Kind of like the jab, the big pharma, they the same thing. They don't get any liability to them either.
Yes. So we have to be aware of it. Now, the devil is already in our house, and it's called EMR, electromagnetic radiation. You cannot reverse the wheel. We invited EMR into our lives, and now we have to live with the devil. And that was my approach, that I said, okay, you have to live with the devil. For the modern society, that's what it is. The EMR harms our bodies, plants, animals. The government doesn't protect you. The big industry doesn't protect you. And our cost is health consequences. Nobody talks about it, really, frankly, very little people. To me, to my opinion, every third person at the moment is dying of cancer, and the number is getting worse, not better. And for me, the number one reason, not the only, but the number one reason is electromagnetic radiation. I'll give you a health example. Every healthy cell runs on electricity, 20 to 25 millivolts. Every cell in our body runs on electricity, 20 to 25 millivolts. If we have to go in a repair mode, the body automatically increases this to 50 millivolts to run repairs in our body. This is something a lot of people are not aware of. To remove the waste in our body, to increase the circulation. And when we are now bothering our body with cell phones, this automatic repair mode is sabotaged because the influence of the cell phone is much higher than your natural field. Like if you stand out in the wind on a normal day, you can fight against the wind with your body. Your body is strong enough. But if you have a gale storm of 180 miles per hour, the storm just blows you away, no matter how strong you are. Imagine the same thing happens with your body. The body tries to repair itself. Now, be careful about what companies say. And there is something which is called the dangers of the cell phones. And the cell phone has three effects, three complete different effects. The cell phone can harm you thermal, means heat, chemical in your body and the functions, and biological in your organs. So the cell phone has three negative effects on your body. And let's talk about the thermal effect. Some of people out there, of the listeners, may have experienced that when they were using a cell phone intensively, that their body became warmer. Like they tell me, okay, I can feel the heat in my hand or on my head.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So that's the thermal effect. And there's a big scam going on in the cell phone industry from day one. A friend of mine used to work for an European cell phone company who was the leading cell phone company years ago before on Android and Apple got into the business, right? I don't want to mention the name. It's a European company, which you may have heard the name. Well, I should mention the name. It's Ericsson. And he worked in the company, and he's told me what they did was they put cell phones, attached them to the head, to the skull of a pig, and then let the pig run around for a while. I don't know what the pigs said to each other on the cell phone, but they were running around with the phone attached, right? So after a certain amount of time, they would stop and slaughter the pigs, cut the skull open to see how far did the heat penetrate the brain. And they did this test already 30 years ago. They knew what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. So when I developed my technology, I made myself then a test about the heat effect. And again, this is only one negative effect of the phone, right? But it's very crucial, as you will hear in a few minutes. So I took my office manager, and you see here his head, his ears, his hair. It's called thermophotography. And here's his nose. And the more bright the color is, the more heat you have. So the red in the ear is naturally very high, the heat in the ear. That's by nature the case. And yellow was pretty okay, warm. Green was cooler, mid, and blue and black are cold. There's no heat. So that was his natural image without any cell phone usage. Then on the right side, you see the same person after a 5 minute phone call, how the entire head, how the entire skin warmed up. It completely warmed up. The heat was penetrating the skin and consequently the skull, and eventually through the skull in the brain. Now, then I made a test with my cell phone protection on the cell phone. That's the middle image. Now, between the middle image and the left image, you see hardly any difference, which was the proof to me that my cell phone didn't have a heat effect on the human body. You had a bit of an increase, a very little increase, because you were just holding the phone to the skin, which automatically, if you put your hands against the skin, it heats up a bit. That's normal because of the touch of the contact. So I was very happy proud to see that. And that I did like 10, can't remember the year, 10 years ago. Meanwhile, even my technology has further developed. So that's the thermo effect. Now,
And
why do
just
I?
on that, actually, because like years ago, you wouldn't hear much of brain tumors, but you're constantly hearing of people getting brain tumors, which, based on what you've just shown, the device to your head, I'm assuming is the reason for a massive increase in brain tumors.
Of course, but it's not only the heat, okay? Now remember, the thermo effect is just one part, but we have a body effect with the organs, okay? So besides the heat effect, the organs are sabotaged, and we see this in a second here. Now, there's something which is called, sometimes you read in literature or you hear it, SAR. They talk about SAR, or they say in literature, oh, SAR proved, SAR, whatever. Nobody really knows what it is. SAR stands for specific absorption rate. Specific absorption rate. It means how much electromagnetic radiation can a cell phone enforce onto the human without having health consequences. How much is that value? Now, of course, a legit question is, who decides about this value? It's like a governor, limitation in the car. You have a governor in the engine, it doesn't run faster than this or that and the other. So the SAR is supposed to be the limit. How much can you give the body without becoming sick? Now, who decides that? Who you think does that?
Unfortunately, the sellers, the manufacturers, probably.
You're right on. So it's not done by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration.
Who
It's
you can't trust anyway.
it's not the World Health Organization. It's not the CDC in America, which is called Center for Disease Control, or any governmental institution. None of them decide that. The decision is made by an International Commission of Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection. Whoa, let me say that again. The International Commission of Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection. That sounds cool. Sounds very competent. So who is that commission? It's a commission run for and by the mobile phone industry. It's the biggest joke of the fox running the hen house. And the president at this time, his name was Professor Bernhardt. He was asked or attacked. They said, look, you give out these limitations, but the limitations are so high that people must get sick. They're much too high. How can you do that? And here comes the answer, which you cannot invent. If we lower those limits, it will kill the industries, the cell phone industry. Because the phones wouldn't work as much as good. People wouldn't really buy it. People wouldn't really use it. So we have to have the limits and such. It basically says we rather kill people than the industry. He admitted it. And there are some interesting parts in this that people like him, who were then the president of that commission, they changed jobs. They were today president of that commission, and tomorrow the World Health Organization, or for some cell phone companies. And the guy who worked for the cell phone companies was suddenly, again, a president of that commission or worked for the commission. So it's a complete scam. Now, you would say, well, how did they determine the limitation? And again, we only talk about thermal, right? Not the effects on the human body itself, on the DNA, on your organs. So what they did 30 years ago, or almost more than now, the limit value is based on the radiation intensity which warms a lifeless body. A lifeless body means a dead body by 1 degree Celsius within 30 minutes. Now you try to imagine this test. If you have a lifeless body and you have a cell phone and you measure the body temperature, as long as it doesn't increase more than 1 degree Celsius within 30 minutes. Who nowadays uses a cell phone only 30 minutes a day?
Especially if they're dead.
Especially if they're dead. So long-term effects over a longer period of time were not even taken in consideration. Here is then some reactions to this from qualified people, like the Science Directorate of the European Parliament says, public concern is not unfounded in places with long-term exposure. Should, here comes it again, 100 microwatt per square meter not be exceeded. Not me saying that. The Science Directorate of the European Parliament said that. It should be not exceeded 100 per square meter per phone. Professor Vogel from the Technical University in Aachen, Germany said, the claim that the limit values have a protection effect is to be regarded as incorrect scientific information. This corresponds legally to all features of fraud and includes grossly negligent to deliberate threats and mayhem. And he made this statement in 2001. We had only 3Gs in 2001. Now imagine he would do the whole thing again on 5G, which is much, 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 much more intense and strong. And the last quote here, Professor Neil Cherry from New Zealand, regarding the limit values, came to the conclusion the limit values are seriously incorrect and show patterns of bias and deliberate twisting. Deliberate twisting. So you can say that the whole thing is a scam. For my definition, it's a scam. 30 years ago, that test with these weak cell phones of that time, it's a joke. You must consider that the cell phones nowadays, 5G, is about 1,000 times more intense. So the whole cell phone industry worked on this pattern. And again, you see in some literatures, SAR, that companies refer to, oh, our cell phone is safe because it's SAR. So they don't know what they're talking about. And people think that it's something particular, something special, which we should be aware of. And yeah, we are safe. Now, we have health consequences by the dozens. The main consequences, both for children and adults, are the blood-brain barrier, which is God-given. The blood-brain barrier we have is supposed to filter toxic crap not to get to the brain. But 4G, 5G penetrates the blood-brain barrier. It just ignores it. The blood-brain barrier doesn't even exist. It cannot filter it out. We develop 4 to 5 times more likely tumors, behavior disorders, hyper, or being depressed. The water structure in our body is destroyed. The DNA has a damage to the cells. And when you listen to Barry Trower, I recommended you, he talks about this, and he predicts in how many generations our mankind will be distinguished. He clearly says it, and he explains it. A Danish study surveying more than 13,000 children found an 80% increase in the likelihood of behavior problems among children who use cell phones and whose mothers use cell phones when they were pregnant. And if you look today now, of course, the blood-brain barrier of children and the skull is much more fragile than an adult. And these children nowadays, they grow up with cell phones and these pads. They're babysitters. Nowadays, parents give the kids these as babysitters. Look how cute. And they entertain themselves. I don't have to look after my child. Years ago, I looked into studies from the toy industry in America. And the toy industry in America, they discovered the number one reason why parents buy toys, and except for having birthday or Christmas, parents bought toys because they wanted to have the children entertained and get off the back. Because we know with every toy, the child keeps being busy for a while. So they bought themselves free time, and the parents bought toys because they felt guilty because they didn't give children the time the children needs and deserves. And nowadays, we give the children these new toys that they entertain themselves. And it's amazing. If you look in the street, strollers, babies sitting there, age of 2, 3, they have their own pets. Yeah. They're fuzzling around. They know how to operate it. Now, here is a typical image. You see the radiation and the brain. You see on the left side, the adult, the penetration is a bit limited because of the blood-brain barrier, but not really. It doesn't do anything anymore. But the skull is much more thick than on a baby. Then you see a 10-year-old where the whole thing penetrates much more, this thermal photography, into the brain. And then you see a 5-year-old whose skull is, of course, least developed from these 3 ages, and it completely penetrates the brain. So children are very, very vulnerable. So are pregnant, expecting mothers. But it's all over the place. We know that we have nowadays hip replacements are higher than ever before in history. For me, I connect the dots. Many people wear their phones in their pockets on a holster on the hip, right? Um, and we have the highest rate in cancer, and not only brain cancer, but cancer all over. We know that the sperm count of men went down and the quality of sperm went down. We know that women have their fertilization reduced. We know that cell phones, electromagnetic radiation, is linked to erectile dysfunctions. So these statistics are all there. Colon cancer is on the rise, prostate cancer is on the rise, brain cancer is on the rise. And in 1932, German scientists discovered microwave sensitivity in 1932. So this thing is known. We know that birds and fish and many animals negative by the Earth magnetic field, which again is interrupted with cell phones and Wi-Fi's. Our heart functions works on 2 hertz. Our brain functions works on 0 to 100 hertz. These are all compromised. Our own nervous system can create energy waves. Our body produces infrared radiation, which can be seen for miles with night vision equipment. But all these natural functions are strongly compromised. And people ignore it. And doctors have no idea about it. And you said quite rightly earlier that we don't know. And I tell you something, a lot of people don't want to know. They don't want to be leaving their comfort zone, their lifestyle, what they call lifestyle. And here's what Albert Einstein said, our German countryman. I fear that the day that technology will surpass our human interaction, the world will have a generation of idiots. And he said this many years ago. We are trying to replace human contact, communication by cell phones and Wi-Fi and internet. And that's a dead-end street. For me, that's a mental dead-end street, which we have a problem to survive as a society, because it's signs of insanity. Now, there is a program which I would like to point out. The program here in America, I don't know whether there's something equivalent in Europe. The program here in America, it's called antennasearch.com. Antennasearch.com. It's a program. You can step in there. It's not what you think it is. It's not to help to protect you from electromagnetic radiation. It's a company, a program to encourage you to invest in transmission towers and transmitters to put on your property, to make money with it. They want you to put these transmitters on your property to make money with it. And when you put antennasearch.com and you put in the address where you live, it shows you of a range within 3 miles how many transmitters and towers are already there. And it shows you where they are, the official ones, not the private ones. So in my case, I put last year in the company in November, my company address in America, and within a 3-mile radius, I have 192 transmission towers and 383 antennas. And the number since that, of course, became bigger. And there's a program called Fing, an app. You can download Fing, F-I-N-G. And when you download the program, it shows you where you are now with your cell phone, how many Wi-Fi connections are running through my body now. How many? Which I don't see, but how many? So a colleague, a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine from Switzerland, And when I was giving my last seminar, live seminar in 2020, a month before the COVID shutdown, um, he checked in a hospital in Switzerland, in Zurich, with the Fing program in the middle of the hospital, how many Wi-Fi connections are running through my body now. If I have the code, the password, I could use them. Now, Roy, what do you think? How many?
Well, I know that if you're in an apartment block, sometimes you'll see 40. In a hospital, perhaps it was from every single person, so it could be 100.
1,200. Now, we thought this is a wrong reading. That must be wrong, right? Went to a second hospital, just basically the same. So this is going on. Now,
And just on that, because it's very important as well, the place that they have the towers are the last place they should have them. Every single hospital in much where I am and the schools, they have them on top of the hospitals, the last place they should be.
of course, and schools. And schools. Now, I had a bit of a small career here in America. There was a school in California, and they had cancer cases among some students and teachers, and it was upsetting. And then they discovered that they had on the school ground a tower on the playground, and the school received every year $25,000 from the carrier to allow them to have the tower sitting there. When the shit hit the fan, they quickly dismantled the tower, but the damage was done. And then I was across America on 50 radio stations in a minute, because when the news broke, they wanted to know, nobody understood electromagnetic radiation. Nobody understood all that. We're talking here many years ago. And they said there's this German guy in Florida, Norbert, talk to Norbert about it. So they invited me on the radio shows, 50 stations across the country, that I would explain them what's going on, right? They had no idea. Now, 5G is not only a single frequency, it's a bundle of frequency. Depending on which emotion and health parameter you want to stimulate in a person, you can use different frequencies to manipulate a person. You want to increase the aggression, the suicide, the indifference, sexual assault, creating cancer, body functions can be sabotaged in a target manner. Now, on my last live seminar in Europe before the shutdown, I was giving every year hundreds of seminars around the world. It was in Zurich, Switzerland. I said on stage, guys, there is a vaccination coming up. And this vaccination has inside the vaccination a digital tattoo with which you can be controlled. And people thought I'm stupid, I'm crazy. I mean, you're weird, right? Nowadays, people look at this differently, but they're not. And I said, no, I'm not that smart. The only thing I did, I listened to Bill Gates. And he said, we have to vaccinate the world. We have to reduce the population, control it. And we have in the vaccination a digital tattoo. What does he mean by that? When you got the vaccination, they had your name, your address, maybe your social security, and every vaccination had a barcode, and you were listed. So with these information, with the technology of 5G, I can, through computer, contact your body. I can communicate with your body. And I can manipulate your body. That was the target. And now 6G is on the horizon, and it will become worse. So among others, what you have to understand is that we have an organ which is called pineal gland. And the pineal gland sits in the middle of your brain, and the pineal gland is not only creating melatonin, which everybody knows, but does much more than that. It controls your hormones in your body, and you may say it controls your mood and the condition you are in. okay? That is the pineal gland. And the pineal gland does a lot, more than people know, more than doctors know. And with 5G, I can control the pineal gland. I can attack it. Now, 5G, it destroys the water structure. Here you see on the bottom picture the structure of a healthy water, according to Masaru Emoto, a Japanese scientist who discovered that healthy water has what he calls a hexagonal structure. It looks like a piece of art, like a jewelry, right? Sorry. This is when you freeze water and you make a photo of the water crystal. And this is a proof of healthy water. I have a show, if you ever want to do it, where we talk about water only, and I tell you what's going on with water if you wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've read that book with that guy because I know that even the sound frequencies like heavy metal and things like that compared to nice, even the words, because we see people with plants, they talk nice words and they talk negativity. So everything, the frequency is done it, and yeah, it's fascinating all the pictures that he shows.
So we can do a show if you would like to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you see here, you see on the bottom, healthy water structure, right? And the same water you see on the top photo, destroyed by a cell phone. So the healthy water structure gets destroyed by the cell phone. And the picture on top is an original photo from Dr. Masaru Emoto from one of his books, which I recommend, which we'll talk about then. The problem is that my opinion about doctors, no doctor has when I say no doctor, I mean hardly any doctor, has an idea what I'm talking here about. They have no idea. You get to them because you're sick and you have a cell phone in your pocket. The doctor himself has a cell phone in his pocket, and you have this and that and the other. You have all kinds of illnesses, and they can't get a grip on it. To my personal opinion, experience, and talking to many people over the years, 95% of all medical doctors are a disgrace. They're a simple disgrace. They cannot think holistic and have no idea about water, electromagnetic radiation, basic of dentistry, nutrition. 3% of medical doctors I consider good, and 2% I consider fantastic. This is the pyramid there. And I had the privilege to meet and work, and still do, with many of these 2% doctors. And again, I have a separate show about the good and not so good doctor, where I give you my experiences of 45 years, what's going on with the doctors. So all this should give you the picture that we have a problem with cell phones. And I discovered then lately how stupid the information is out there. Not only how stupid, how misleading, and how they take you for idiots. And I'm launching now, I don't know whether we can play this, I'm trying now, a short 1-minute video. I'm launching now a campaign which I call the Mythbusters about the protection of cell phones. I recorded some 30 tracks in which I give you which I bust this information wrongly given to you as a consumer, even by the CDC and by the FDA, what they say how to control, reduce the risk. You're being misled about electromagnetic radiation, in short, EMR protection, and it's costing you your health. It took me 18 years to figure it all out, what works and what does not work. Your phone, Wi-Fi, smartwatch, anything using 4G or 5G needs harmful EMR to function. But here's the kicker. Everywhere you look, blogs, influencers, even from the FDA and CDC, you'll find these hot lists with hot tips to protect yourself from EMR. My opinion, almost every single one is useless. So I will bust them down one myth at a time. Follow me please on my EMR Mythbuster tour, and let's get to the truth together. Drop your questions in the comments. Let's see how many lies we've been told and clear them up, one by one. I have covered in those 30 videos. One of these things they say is, do not use cell phones near infants. That's a joke. Everybody has cell phones and they don't care whether infants are on their shoulder, on their laps, close to them. Do not allow children to use cell phones. Yeah, it's a joke. You give children a cell phone in order to entertain them. Choose a low radiation phone. Have you ever gone to a store and say, give me a low radiation phone? People don't know even what you're talking about. Keep your phone off when not in use. Yeah, but what about the Wi-Fi in your house and in the office you're working? And so on and so on and so on. So these are all the topics I am talking about in this series. And if you go on my website, you will have all those videos. You can link to them and listen to them. I tell you what works and does not work. And 99% of what they publish does not work. You must imagine that even the FDA tells you how to protect yourself from a cell phone problem. And at the same time, they say cell phone is not a problem, okay?
What's the actual range from a cell tower that's a dangerous range? Because I see them everywhere. You know, even
Yeah,
like, is it 100 meters? Is it a mile? What's the distance that you have to go? This is actually damaging my cells.
yeah, good question. And here comes the answer. When they say one of the topics, hold the cell phone on speaker mode, right? It's like, like here in this position away from you, right? Hold it on speaker mode, which is complete nonsense, which I prove in my live seminars. And I'm shooting videos about this as well in the near future, because people have to be aware of it. A cell phone affects your body and your health if it comes closer than 7 feet to your body. We're not talking about Wi-Fi signals now. We're only talking about cell phone. Wi-Fi signals, we'll talk in the next show. So if I don't have a cell phone on me, to give you a practical example, and you come with your cell phones approaching me, as soon as you are 7 feet away from me, your cell phone harms my body immediately. So when people think, oh, I'm on a speakerphone, I'm safe, complete nonsense. Complete, utterly nonsense, which I prove in my live seminar to people that they don't need to believe me. I make a test and they can see it. They can feel it, that there's a difference, right? So 7 feet is about the critical distance. 6 feet, no question. 8 feet sometimes, but I usually promote 6 to 7 feet is the dangerous zone. So in the older times, before I developed a lot more than I did today, I was aware of it. I would have my cell phone in my office 10, 12 feet away, lying on the shelf. And if it would ring, I would go to the shelf, answer it, and put it back, which at this time, I must admit, was very limited, small amount of times and little phone calls. Nowadays, everybody is wearing the cell phone 24/7 on their body and is using it, right? And I give you one example of the most stupid of these videos, Mythbusters I shot, right? Now, you mentioned how far you needed to take it away from your body, right? Now, if you know that I said, and I swear, and I guarantee it's 6, 7 feet, which is like 2 meters, 2 meters 10. Now, your arms are not 2 meters 10, right? Now, if you know this is fact, so to say I don't put a cell phone against my ear, I hold it 10, 20 inches away or 20 inches in front of me, it's a joke. I call it mental masturbation. Okay? Now I read you this one here now, which was published.
Well,
Okay.
that's the first I've heard about that now, just before you read that, because I always put it on screen. I used to get headaches because it was in 94 when I got my first mobile phone. I used to get headaches. So from an early stage, I just told it away and I didn't get headaches, but I wasn't aware that it was like six,
Yeah,
7 foot.
yeah. Now, now here is a joke which I found. It was such a joke that it's now if you're aware of this, right? And I assume that these companies and institutions, entities should be aware of this, okay? The ARPANSA, which is the Australian government's primary authority on radiation protection and nuclear safety. Again, ARPANSA, the Australian government primary authority on radiation protection and nuclear safety. They recommended to the cell phone users. Now get this. You take the cell phone and you put your thumb between the cell phone and your head. The thumb. And that saves you. Primary authority, really? It's comedy. It's comedy at its best. Now, before we get to how I solve the problem in a moment, I want you to be aware of 2, 3 simple facts. You need electromagnetic radiation to make a phone call, as I said earlier on. If there's no electromagnetic radiation, you cannot make a cell phone call. Companies advertise out there and say, oh, we have a gadget here, you put on your cell phone, your sticker, and it blocks electromagnetic radiation. When people say that, they're so full of it, or they're so stupid that it's laughable. Because if I successfully block electromagnetic radiation, you cannot make a cell phone call. So if I put their gadgets on my phone, and they're sold by the dozens on the internet, if I put it on my phone and it should protect me, it should block electromagnetic radiation, and I can still make a phone call, what does that mean?
Not working.
It doesn't block, right? So you have to be aware of it. So I took one example here, and then some advertising, they say, we reduce up to 60% the problem, or up to 80%. What does that mean? Up to 80% means we reduce it 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, up to 80. Even if they would reduce it up to 60 or 80%, you still would have 30, 40% penetration into your brain. So what is that? Instead of drinking 10 milligram arsenic, you only drink 3 milligram arsenic. It doesn't kill you, it still kills you. So here I have an example, and I've never done it before. It's the first time I ever do this in a show. I just was fed up with it, and I took an example of one company who's promoting themselves, and as an example. The company is called Bodywell, and they made statements. And the statements say, among others, you see it here, the reduction is absorbed radiation range from 60 to 80%, depending on the phone. And at the same website, then they say reduces by up to 80%. It reduced radiation absorption by an impressive 80%. That's not impressive for me. That's suicidal. I mean, you reduce up to 80%. What about the 20%? The 20% kill you. Or steps to mitigate these risks. Reduces biological absorption of radiation. Effectiveness is validated through SAR. I've explained to you before what SAR is. They refer to SAR, which is complete nonsense. Helps lower the impact effectively. Reduce EMF exposure. Minimize radiation. Reduce the absorption. And so on, so on, so on. Repetitive. They reduce, they improve, they reduce it. And they say they have the guts to say the SAR, specific absorption rate test, is the only real way to see how much radiation from your device is being absorbed by the head and body. This is for me a scam. SAR testing measures reduced radiation absorption in the body. The SAR test only tested the heat, nothing else. And then they have the guts to say products are safe for all ages, including children. This you discover when you read the fine print. And then you buy these products, and this is my thing. You buy these products in expectation that you did everything for yourself to protect yourself, right? Sure, you feel safe, right? But it's an illusion. It's not safe. You cannot be a bit pregnant. Either the cell phone radiation is protected you from it or not. The harmful effect. You are protected or not. You cannot be a bit pregnant. It's impossible. You're pregnant or not. So on my website, we did already a few years ago, we bought 22 products on Amazon. They all promise you to protect you. They all promise you to protect you. I bought them, just ordered them, just whatever it is, just send them. And my product was the 23rd. And in a double-blind test, we tested those products which all promise you to protect you from the harmful electromagnetic radiation of cell phones. And here's the link on my website where you can find the video we shot. And I was not involved in the testing. I had a very skilled doctor who tested in front of the camera. And from these 23 products, one was mine. Mine was the only product which worked. I've found so far in the last 18 years, I didn't test all the products in the world. No, don't have time to do that. But I tested a lot. And when I have live seminars, I test live seminars, the product. And I encourage the people who participate, bring your protective product and we'll test it in front of the audience. And I did this for many, many, many years across the world. And I found, I believe, only one product which worked, apart from mine. Only one. And there may be 2 or 3 out there, I don't know, but not hundreds, not dozens. So these are the cell phone test, which I encourage you to watch. And this was done in a double-blind study. Now, I encourage you to research yourself. Besides what I'm saying, I'm referring to people. Trustful sources of the danger of electromagnetic radiation. Dr. Olle Johansson from Sweden, Barry Trower from England, Devra Davis, USA, Patrick Colbeck, Senator, USA, which officially asked the government to stop this. And then there's Captain Jerry Flynn from Canada. He is like Barry Trower, a whistleblower. And
I actually have his book here. I've read it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was just going to
yeah, you have it there. Brilliant.
Okay. He is a whistleblower. He was involved. He says how governments, telecom, and electric power utilities suppress the truth about the known hazards of electromagnetic field radiation. He was involved in warfare using electromagnetic radiation with the Canadian Army. So he was known. He knew it. And when he retired, he said, I had it. I must inform public what's going on. This cannot be accepted. There is a book, Cell Phone Russian Roulette, how the tissues, chromosome, DNA gets damaged. And this book was written back in 2000. Mind you, 2000, 25 years ago. Now, I must say this book is not cheap. There are very few available if you find them at all. They're not cheap, but it's worth it if you're really interested. So the book from, you just saw the hidden dangers of 5G, and this one, if you're really interested, and there are many more books out there. I don't know them all, and I can't read them all. I just don't have the time. But I encourage you to do your own research. Now, the last step before I explain you how I handle the problem, I want you to be aware my wish is for you to learn to be aware if you don't know it. We have body functions which are created God-given in harmony. And this harmony can be destroyed, it can be spoiled. We should be living on the parasympathetic nerve system primarily, which is the way we are cool. We are not under stress. We're not upset. Where our heartbeat is slow and our body functions, as you can read there on the left side, are what I call in a control, healthy, calm pattern. And this is survival. This is the best survival mode for health. Now, on the right side, you have the sympathetic nerve system, which is the easiest to see that increase heartbeat. As soon as the heartbeat goes up, you are under stress. And this condition is called fight and fly mode, and which means you are under stress and the best guarantee to get sick. And we talked about this in the coffee show we did together. People should listen to our caffeine show and what caffeine does to your body. It puts you in a sympathetic nerve situation, which is sickening, is stress, chronic stress. So all what I explained to you about the cell phone, what it does basically, it puts you in the fight and flight mode, which means you are always getting sick in one way or the other, whatever functions and organs. And again, let me say, technology progress is basically something very valuable to our society, no question, unless it's abusive. And most importantly, it is not something used against people, the planet. And who takes responsibility? Nobody takes responsibility for a cell phone. No president, no person, no company, no minister. So what I've done is I developed the technology starting with the cell phone. And this is what it looks like. It's a very thinnest, small, like a credit card, but much smaller and thinner, okay? And all you do is you take your cell phone and stash this card, just put it between the case and you put the phone on it. That's all. No gluing, no sticking, no whatever. If you change the cell phone, you take the unit out, you take it off, and you put it in your next phone. Now, this product is guaranteed for 5 years. For 5 years as a warranty. Now, when I originally designed the product, I did it in 4G and then the next edition in 5G. And my technology is based on quantum physics. This product, believe it or not, is a quantum physics computer. The average person can get a hold of the idea because computer needs a keyboard and electricity and power and so on. It's a quantum physics computer. Only if you understand quantum physics, you may get the idea of it. But you don't need to believe me, we'll look into this. So when 5G was around, I knew 6G was coming. So every person in the world who had bought my product, I reprogrammed their product to 6G a year ago. Now, you were not aware of this. You got the product a year ago, for example. I programmed it. In quantum physics technology, I can find all products in the world, wherever they are, in Africa, in Australia, wherever they are, it doesn't matter. I program that product and I upgrade you without you noticing, without you paying extra, without you sending it back to the factory. That's only possible in quantum physics, and I may be the only person in the world who can do this with a cell phone unit. And it goes further than that. So it's guaranteed for 5 years. Yes, in 5 years you have to replace it. Okay. And give you an example, nowadays it costs $99. Guaranteed for 5 years.
And
And
what happens within the 5 years that it can't be 10 years? What's the reasoning behind that?
well, there's technology behind it and control. And I cannot foresee 10 years. I'm trying to foresee for 5 years. Technology changes so quickly. Now, 6G is mind-blowing and it will kill our planet as we know it. Okay. When we talk about the Wi-Fi in the next show, we talk about 6G a bit more. So I developed this technology, which I'm very proud of and very successful. And I show in a minute why I'm proud of it, because it has been scientifically tested and certified. Nobody needs to believe me. But I want you to be aware, you just stash it between phone and the case. And if you don't have a case, you can take double-sided Scotch tape and stick it to the backside. But most people have a case nowadays with the phone, right? And it says now on the new version, it even says on it now 6G, which came out last week. But even if you had the version before, it didn't say 6G on it, but we programmed it 6G. Okay. All right. So what do I do? It's something which is only possible in quantum physics. Now imagine the cell phone radiation is a spectrum of frequencies, not only one frequency, a spectrum. As I said before, depending on the evil side, they can select what they want to do to your body. And 6G will be a complete control. 6G to give you up front, 6G will control the way you think and the way you even walk or your body position. Everything can be controlled. So knowing this or finding out this 17 years ago, I worked on this 17 years ago I started. So I'm not overnight fly here. I understood very fast that some of these frequencies are harmful to your body. And some of the frequencies you need to make the phone call. So what I did, I took the frequencies which harm your body and I nullified them. Now I got to explain what nullifying means. Nullifying means if you take, I give an example of water. You have in the water chlorine, and the chlorine is a poison. Every product on this world, and if you're ever interested in, I have one show I do about frequencies only. We talk only about frequencies, that the world is based on frequencies. This is an extract from this show. So every person in this world has its own frequency. Every product has its own frequency, its own unique frequency, like the fingerprint. So I know the frequency of chlorine in the water. I know the frequency. So let's say the frequency has what I said here, a -2. Just to give an example, a very easy example, a -2 frequency. If I program in my product to control the water, if I program in that product a +2, again, it's a computer, I can program it. The +2 and -2 is nullifying. The result mathematically is 0. Okay, and it's called in physics inversion. The official explanation is inversion, a bit more complicated, but basically the same thing. So I went ahead and designed the cell phone chip that these frequencies in the cell phone which harm your body are nullified. 0. No more harm. But at the same time, the frequency you need to make the phone call are not touched. Example with the water again, I nullify the frequency of chlorine. Now let's say, give an example, in the water, there's vitamin C. Vitamin C has a frequency. So I leave vitamin C alone. We don't want to kill vitamin C. We only want to kill the chlorine. So I can design this by will, by technology, based on quantum physics, based on my what I call pro technology I developed. So far, so good?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
And
Now,
you mentioned like the 7 feet. With other people's phones, if you've got this device, I have that device here, does that stop the dangerous getting to me, even if I have it here and it's behind me, or is
doesn't
it
matter.
only connected with the no?
It's connected with your cell phone. If you wear this in your cell phone and you have your cell phone around here, wherever, within 6 feet, as soon as frequencies come towards your cell phone, as soon as they reach 6 feet from you, they're nullified. So to speak, you have a fortress of 6 feet around you. The 6 feet, everything is nullified. So you can come with 10 people around me. They can come sit on my laps, 10 people, on my shoulders. Whatever cell phones they have, I don't care. My unit nullifies their phones. It goes much further than that. I give you now a mind-blowing thing. And on my website, there's a video which shows that. Imagine I have this in my cell phone, and I call you now in Poland on your cell phone. The protective frequency of my cell phone travels from my cell phone to the next tower, to the next tower, to the next tower, to a satellite, to another satellite. It comes down in Poland from the satellite to the next tower, and then it reaches you. This all happens in split seconds. So if I dial your number, your phone will ring in what? 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Example. So which means the frequency of that phone, the contact, travels through all these towers and all the universe and all the satellites to you. You're with me?
Yeah.
In the moment you answer the phone, you are protected because of my unit in my phone. Which means my technology travels through the entire universe with that phone contact frequency attached to it. Piggyback. You answer the phone and you're protected. You can see on my website a demonstration video where we did this with somebody in Austria from America and so on. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, or even if you're in the same room. Because if you're in the same room like with me and I call your phone, the connection doesn't jump to your phone. It goes to satellite, and comes back, though you're only 3 feet away, 10 feet away, right? So which means my technology travels with that signal around the world and you pick up the phone. The same thing happens reverse. If you now call me, you are not protected, and you call me on my cell phone, and I have this in my cell phone, of course. And the moment I answer the phone, quantum physics, bang, it jumps back to you in no time. Quantum physics knows no time. There's no yesterday, tomorrow, left, right, up and down in quantum physics. It immediately jumps to you and you are protected as well. This is how far my technology goes. If the government and these people would agree, we could put my technology in every phone, of course. People said at the beginning, you become filthy rich now because it's going to be in every phone. I said, no, they will not put it in the phone because then they would admit that the phones they sold to you over the last 20 years were all harming you. The avalanche of lawsuits would be endless. But then again, good old Bill Clinton put a stop on that. You cannot sue these companies.
But that's in the States. Has anybody in Europe or other countries taken a legal case? Because technically they can't really prove that they're safe. So has there been any court cases against them?
I must admit, I don't know. I really don't know. I've not researched that. I must say I'm here in America for the past 25 years. Of course, I was very often in Europe and so on. And I must tell you, I'm a one-man show. I don't have a team of 100 people. We're a very small company. And I have very nice, good engineers working with me on all that. But our capacity financially and time-wise does not allow me to do this. While we speak, while we work on 2, 3 more books to give more truth out there to people. So it's very limited, the resources I have. Very frankly, I don't know what the legal situation is. So this nullifying is the key of my technology. It's the same for water and other products. In quantum physics, I can nullify what I do if something is bad. I nullify the bad part. Here is what it looks like. You see, there is this phone with a case where it sits in, a 5-year warranty. And now we're talking about the testing part of it. The testing, how I come to the conclusion, which I have. So there is a company in Austria called BISA Institute. I was on a talk show in Switzerland years ago, and the guy said, "What you're doing is phenomenal. It's crazy. It's, you know," I said, "Yeah, I have a problem. I cannot scientifically prove it." Okay. Well, he said, "No problem. There is this company in Austria which does nothing else than doing that, exactly that. They prove products which make claims, and they scientifically prove it works or it doesn't work." I said, "Fantastic." So I immediately went in contact with them, and I had them all my 30 products tested. They said, "You're not going to do this. It costs you an arm and a leg." I said, "Yes, I want to do it. I want to have a peace of mind. I want to have a confirmation. I'm cool. My products do what they promise to do. I don't want nobody come up to me and said, 'You lied to me. You betrayed me.' So test them." And they tested them. So, and here's what such a test looked like. And when they tested them, I was not present. Okay. They did it in Austria, and then they sent me the results. The results made me proud. So here is an example of such a test, which are on my website. On my website, I have 1,500 pages of tests of all my products and certifications. You can see all these tests. You can read them. I'm not hiding them. I don't have them in a safe in the basement. So you can, this is an extract, what I'm showing you here. It's an extract, just a piece. So you see here, they test the lung, skin, stomach, pancreas, bladder, and so on, different functions and organs, and everything is in blue. Blue means degenerative, means sick. And lymph, kidney, liver, blood circulation, uh, gall, heart, they test them, and you see everything of that person is in blue. Using a cell phone, it puts the person in what I called before the fight and flight mode. Then they put my product on the phone and they tested the person again. And everything which was blue is green now. And green means healthy. So we moved the person within minutes, seconds, minutes from unhealthy state in a healthy state. All the same, liver, heart, everything was healthy now. Everything was healthy now. And here's a comparison, a quick comparison. Lung, skin, colon, stomach, nerves, pancreas, abdominal. They tested many, many parameters. And then they give me the results to prove that the person being under the influence of a cell phone, everything was included degenerative, protected with my products, the person steps into green, healthy situation. And that is the new version of the cell phone I was talking about, which I have nowadays. But even if you out there happen to have one of my previous models, it's just the
Yeah,
same.
I
There
have it
is
there
no
now.
difference. Okay. And of course, once they finish their test, I get a certificate confirming that my cell phone product does exactly what I claim it does. And here's the website. You can read all that all on my website. You can download it, you can study it of all my products. Any questions so far, my dear?
So you mentioned satellites, and that was something I was going to ask you about. Like we see that Musk has put thousands of satellites, so has Bezos. Like, do we know? I mean, like as you said before, there's nowhere you're safe. So, like, even if you move to the Amazon or something like that, so that basically means you're getting bombarded no matter where you are on the planet.
Yes, yes. Now, keep in mind, we're talking now in this show only about cell phones, right? which of course is corresponding with Wi-Fi and works on Wi-Fi, but just the impact and the situation with cell phone. Our next show we have planned, we talk about Wi-Fi, where we pick up on this subject. If you come up with this question again, then we dive into that question if you agree with it. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you have any other questions before we finish for today?
No, I think you've covered everything. I mean, I had a lot of stuff, but as you were going through it, you were covering them. So, there's, I think the main thing is where people can find you. What's the websites and where any handles that you want to give?
Okay, sure. I have to tell people one thing very clearly. I'm not starting all this to make a business. I started all this to protect myself and my family, because what was offered is a scam. 99% of the products out there are scam. That's my definition, very clearly. And I gave you an example there. A scam is if a company says we reduce up to 80%, 60%. These are scams. Okay. You put a safety belt on to avoid, if you have an accident, to get harmed, right? What do you do with cell phones? There is no safety belt, except you have a product which works. And I don't care if you buy my product or somebody else's product, if the other product truly works. There are thousands of offers which are bullshit. There cannot be enough companies. I don't know the expression competition. That's nonsense. I know only companies which make good products as well. And that's the target in this world, that we all manufacturers offer products which are ethical and don't harm people. If that's the standard of our living and interacting with each other, we have a healthy society. Problem is, our society is based a lot on no knowledge, of deceiving, and of greed, but not of love and creating great products. And there are companies out there in different fields which create great products. So you got to look out. And I gave you some indicators there and some examples. And again, watch my video on the website with a comparison of these products. And I cannot do enough comparisons, and I don't have the time to do that. I cannot tell you a list of all the products which don't work. I don't want to fight against these companies. I fight against stupidity. I fight against deceiving people, being greedy, and selling products which are unethical. I have no problem if somebody becomes a millionaire with a great product. He deserves it. But there are too many bad products out there. So be aware of it. And be aware that if you do not have a cell phone protection which works, my personal statement is this cell phone will make you sick. The longer you use it, the more likely you will become sick in different areas. And no doctor is going to help you because they're looking in the wrong direction. Have you ever been to a doctor and the doctor asks you, do you use a cell phone?
No.
What water do you drink? How is your marriage? How is your relationship with your children? The doctor has 3 minutes time to diagnose you. And when doctors come to my seminars, which some did, of course, they typically said at the end of the seminar, why what you taught today, which is like 8 hours seminars, 10 hours, right? Why weren't we taught this in university? Why nobody told us? And I said, doctors, if you look into this, if you take away bad water, if you take away electromagnetic radiation, you can help a person to heal himself, herself, much better and much faster. Because you take these components out which destroy the basics of your body. Water is the basics of your body, more important than food. And electromagnetic radiation destroys your body. And here's what I say towards the end of a show, typically always. It's my prayer. My gravestone, rest in peace, mankind is extinct because they believe that the laws of nature did not apply to them. We think we can screw nature. We think we can screw God-given basics of existence. The problem is we don't live with nature, but against it. And you see, with a cell phone, there's one more thing about cell phone that as a life and health coach, I work as a life and health coach over 45 years, basically. As a life and health coach, I worked a lot with alcoholics. Now, you don't become an alcoholic if you drink for 2, 3 years. The body fights the alcohol. The liver fights the alcohol. And if you drink for 10, 20 years, eventually the liver gives up. Liver cirrhosis is the consequence. And which means for you, the message I'm giving you, you don't have a problem with the cell phone if you use it typically for a day or for a year or two. It adds up. Okay? The body tries to fight the destroying itself from the cell phone. It fights it, but it's limited. There's a point where it's overwhelmed, and you have to understand that everything is accumulative. You use cell phones, you use Wi-Fi, you use GPS, all that stuff, the towers, it accumulates. You cannot just take it and dump it. You cannot escape. So it accumulates. Be aware of this. So if you say, oh, well, I don't have a problem with a cell phone. Well, what about your diarrhea? Or what about in 10 years, you suddenly just die of a heart attack? How many people died, especially after COVID, of a sudden heart attack, right? It's getting worse and worse. Heart attacks, heart issues are the #1 reason of death in the American society. And I can say, believe it or not, a lot of these issues are created by electromagnetic radiation. Now look at the heart, okay, but the heart, as I said, needs electricity to work and a natural flow of energy in the body. The natural flow of energy is killed by cell phone as long as you don't protect it. Now, whether you buy my product or somebody else's product which works, it doesn't matter. I guarantee you, sorry, I assure you, if you don't protect your cell phone, you will have health consequences, more or less sooner or later. Every third person dying of cancer, in a few years, it will be every second person. And there isn't, in my definition, no medication against cancer. They're looking in the wrong direction. There will be never medication of cancer. And yes, cancer can have several causes. Of course, we're all too acidic. We have too many microplastic in our body, too many heavy metals. We're on a chronic stress. But for me, the #1 cause is electromagnetic radiation. And here's my second final image for today. And my definition of health. My definition of health, body and mind in harmony. Body and mind in harmony. When people talk about living healthy, they talk about having organic food. They don't talk about water. Water is more important than organic food. They talk about body. I'm going to the fitness club every day, every week. Okay, great. But if your mind is screwed, if you're screwed in your mind, I don't think health is possible. Okay, now the health is one thing. And you asked me about my website. Well, this is my website, improveyourlife.us. Improveyourlife.us. And before we finish the show, my very last step, unless you have still a question, you said you had a list.
Yeah, you covered them. Basically, as you were discussing stuff, you were covering all the different things that I was going to discuss.
Okay, good. Now, this here is something I feel obliged to do. I've been never to university or college. I don't have an official degree or title. I don't suffer of that. My self-esteem is strong enough to live with that. But there are people in this world who I want to quickly thank and acknowledge. Without these people, I would be not here today, and I would be not doing what I'm doing, and I would not have the success I have or the knowledge I accumulated. The first one is a doctor I met 45 years ago who saved my life. And he's the reason I stepped into the alternative medicine full time. It's a story for another day. Royal Raymond Rife, if you study frequencies and health you must come across Royal Raymond Rife, who was, I believe, the first person who ever discovered that every illness has a frequency. And he discovered technology to what I call nullify. He did the same similar thing.
And just back while you were on him, Royal Raymond Rife, because I've the Spooky 2 device, which is kind of replicating what he's done. But he actually cured something like 12 or 13 people, and they infiltrated him, modified his machines and everything, and he turned to alcohol and they destroyed him when in turn he was doing amazing things.
Yeah, the FDA killed all his blueprints and machines, right? But I work on frequencies. So he is the father of frequencies, to me, the father in medicine. And of course, there's Nikola Tesla. You cannot do what I do without having looked into Nikola Tesla's work. So I took all their findings over. Then my countryman Max Planck. Max Planck is the person who discovered quantum physics. The fun part is he discovered it in the year 1900, and it took 18 years before they gave him the Nobel Prize because of his findings. He worked on quantum physics together with his friend Albert Einstein. So without Planck and his findings about quantum physics, I would not be able to do what I do because all my technology is based on quantum physics. And there's a physicist who's hardly known, even though it's German, he's hardly known in Germany. His life story is mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. Burkhard Heim. Without his findings, exactly what I'm doing here with the nullifying of the frequencies, I wouldn't be able to do. And if you go on my website, there is a button called Protect Pro Technology. My technology for electromagnetic radiation is called Protect Pro. And he discovered things which I completely adapted to my way of working and my products. And without him, it wouldn't exist. And on my website, there is a button called Protect Pro Technology, 8, 9 pages. If you're interested to learn more about it, I try to explain it pretty straightforward, what I'm doing there. And last not least, Dr. Masaru Emoto, which of course reflects with his findings in water, which I'm using as well. So these are all people which I have to acknowledge. And without acknowledging them, I feel uncomfortable because I didn't invent all that. I didn't come up with all that. I based my work on their findings. So I'm very thankful for what they accomplished.
Oh, beautiful. I appreciate that you do that because most people don't. So that's wonderful. I've never seen people do that, and I think it's a brilliant thing to be doing.
Well, it's an obligation if you're ethical, you know. People may think I came up with all that. No, I'm not that smart. I'm very smart when it comes to researchers or that I feel this is wrong and this is right, right? That's all I can do and to create awareness. So thank you for having me on your show. It was very long, but I wanted to cover the entire subject. So about cell phones, people shouldn't have any questions anymore. If you still have it, write me an email, and then look out for my Mythbuster series where I explain to you don't buy the idiots what they say about protecting yourself from cell phone. The only way to protect yourself from cell phone is my technology or somebody else's which works. But all these tricks there, forget it. It's nonsense. It doesn't work. You can do it with people who don't understand it. So my job is to try to make you understand it and to save your life.
No, excellent. Well, thoroughly enjoyed it, Norbert, as well as the other one. I look forward to our future episodes. I'll make sure I put the links both on the audio and the video. Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you,
Uh,
Sloan.
Thanks.
Sloan.
So that's all for the Awakening
Oh,
podcast. You'll find all our episodes. Go
for
on.
the people, we have to say Sloan is in Irish the expression for goodbye.
Exactly. Yeah. I just take it naturally because I know what it means, but I
Sure.
forget the listeners. Yeah. So, yeah, a nice one to say so long. So, and yeah, you find all the episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. You find everything about me. Scan the QR code. You see my other shows. Go to roycon.com. Until next week, take care. Thank you, Norbert.
Bye bye bye.